welcome to tonight's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, and as always, I have a very special guest for you. Two people in the hot seat tonight. I have Shelly as host and poet, and Mr. Lee G, the artist. He'll be with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV.
Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered.
Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. Like I said, I got two very special people in the house tonight, guys. We're going to have a host and poet, and we also have an artist, so it's going to really be in a kind of artistic flow tonight. But welcome to the program, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me here.
You're welcome. That's Shelly, and of course,
yeah, I'm Mr. Lee G, the artist.
I like that. You're just the artist, you know?
Yeah.
When you said that, actually, the very first time, I thought of Prince, where he says, the artist formerly known as, because he changed his name to a symbol, and he became the artist.
Yes.
So it's kind of a nice thing to kind of think about. But tonight we're actually just going to kind of go into what each of you do and the artistic movement, and actually touch on something really important, which is domestic violence.
Yes. Very important.
Which affects both men and women. Of course, you know, when you think about domestic violence, you typically think of just women.
Yes.
But the reason why we don't have a lot of data on the men is because it gets unreported. And that's a big part of the problem, is men don't want to look away, especially in our culture. You know, or certain cultures, you never want to look like you're, you know, less or anything like that. But it's a reality. There are women who abuse and men who are being abused.
Yeah.
So we'll tackle all that in this segment for sure. But Shelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Shelly S., and I'm the host of a fellow TV show called Simba NYC TV. And I'm also an aspiring poet. And I think tonight we're going to get a sample of some of my poetry.
Yes.
And in my other professional life, I'm a licensed clinical social worker for a hospice.
Wow.
And, yeah, it's heavy.
That's a lot, but you know what? You kind of have a good balance, because you got the professional. I like how you said, you know, in my professional life, but then you got the poetry, the artistic side. So it's really, really cool that you get to merge all that together. And I'm sure the poetry, I think a lot of your day work probably,
It's a good balance. After I've had a heavy day of talking about grief and loss, then I can come home and just sort of like release some of it, you know, with some words.
Absolutely.
And bring myself back and sort of center myself.
So give you that
that's-
balance.
Yeah.
And Mr. Lee G, the artist. A little bit about you.
Yeah, well, like it says, you know, I'm the artist. You know, I'm a singer-songwriter. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. I grew up here in Brooklyn, New York. Went to the School of Performing Arts. Yeah, I'm a songwriter, a producer. I'm also involved with a nonprofit organization by the name of Time to Give Back to Africa.
Wow.
And amongst a few other things, but that's basically the major things, you know, the artistry and the philanthropy.
And if people are wondering what's the connection, artist and manager.
Artist manager.
So that's a team. So this is a team here together.
Yeah.
So how is it being an artist manager when you have a little bit of artistic side yourself?
Well, you know, I'll be quite honest. When my encounter with him was basically management, artist. And yes, I wrote poetry, but I would write it like in the confines of my own little book. And when I first met him, and I said, oh, you know, I write a little poetry, because songwriting is really just an extension of
Poetic,
poetry.
yeah.
And he would say, oh, you know what, one of these days, I'm going to take one of your poetry and turn it into song. And I thought, oh, yeah, sure. When is that going to be? And so to kind of fast forward a little bit, I was invited maybe about 2 years ago to a domestic violence forum called Purple Power. And I had done a poetry there. And it went over well. And I was invited again, and I thought, I can't do the same thing twice. So I needed to do something a little extra.
You need new material.
Yes, and to give it more flavor. So I called on him. And that's how we got together and did Silent Tears.
Silent Tears. Wow. So now I'm going to take it over to you now.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that. I really like that title, Silent Tears.
Yeah, well, what happened? She came to me and, she said, I have to do this domestic violence, purple power thing again. And, you said something about doing a song, with my poetry and stuff. And I was like, well, you know what? I think this is really the time. And then, I listened to the poem. Even though she had the words, I listened to her say it and the passion and so forth in her voice. And I just started strumming on the guitar. And some chords just came in. And before you know it, I just started singing the hook, like, domestic violence. And it just started building from there. And it sort of like just flowed, It didn't really, I didn't really have to work too hard to come up with the lyrics for the hook, So, yeah, it was a natural thing. And then I sort of tapped into my experience of seeing domestic violence and experiencing it from an observer's point of view, of course, and then having a daughter as well, I really dug deep into who I am, as a man and how I would feel about it. And before you know it, we came up with the song.
That is amazing. So,
And we have all had experiences with domestic violence. For me, it might not have been a physical assault on my body, but I'm a woman, so I have friends, and they certainly share some of their experiences.
absolutely. And I mean, I think that's as close as my experience has been. But domestic violence doesn't always have to just be physical, as we know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shouting, the talking down, and I mean, I've grew up hearing certain things that only later on I realized, that really wasn't, that's not how you speak to women. But then you don't want to justify it by saying it's okay, but to a certain degree, how, I guess you could say older people, they're set in their ways
Yes.
already. So they may not know better, but you could break that cycle
Yeah, absolutely.
and know what's wrong. And if you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
So that's always important. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, 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 yeah, yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Domestic violence, yeah. It's all over the place. Domestic violence, yeah. Cuts and bruises on your face. Domestic violence, yeah. Tears running down your cheek. Domestic violence, yeah.
Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. So, Shelly, how was your reaction when you actually heard the final product of the song?
I loved it. Actually, why I did this, and I really wanted to do this, is, on a professional level. When I first started work, not hospice, but I used to work in a hospital, medical surge, and we would have women come in that were abused. And initially, and I have to be quite honest, I didn't seem to get it. I'm thinking I'm a strong woman, and I'm looking and thinking,
Why didn't they leave?
why didn't they leave? And this could never, ever happen to me. So I'm having all these these biases, I have to say, about
Right.
them and what are they doing in this situation, and really, seriously. And it's kind of hard in a hospital, because a hospital is basically about coming in, getting treated, and just being released, the medical part of it. not the psychological part of it. So you don't really get to do much. But there was a particular time where I had this patient and I'm chatting to her and she's telling me about her whole story and I'm finally getting it. And I'm hearing about the whole dynamic of he loves me, he doesn't, he hurts me, the whole, and I'm thinking, how confused this must be for someone. So I'm finally getting it, that this is not just about some man hitting you and you just leaving. This is about the perplexities of I'm staying, I love him, he makes me feel good today, he makes me feel bad, it's going to get better, I no longer have friends, nobody seems to want, the whole dynamic. So when I saw the finished product, I was like, yes.
He captured on all the elements.
We told the story.
Right.
That's how I felt like, yeah, we got this. It's what I felt, and I think it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing about this is I had not heard his part of it. I hadn't heard it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I brought my piece and he brought his piece, I was like, what is this?
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best things are put together that way.
And when we actually had to go to the place where I had to perform for Purple Power, we had only done one rehearsal. It just
Yeah.
came
It was just
together.
that natural.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But as a father, you mentioned that you're a father, you have a daughter.
Yeah.
And when you hear things like this, what do you think could be the best tools? Because I think as anyone who has a father as a girl, your father is your first love, is your first interaction with men. So that's
Yeah.
going to be your first how you view men.
Yes.
Whether you agree that if you have your father could love you dearly, but still do things that would shape how your relationships are. They usually
Yes.
say women try to get a man that would mirror their father.
Yes.
But you, unfortunately, you can't pick and choose which qualities you get
Yes.
in choosing a partner all the time. But as a father, what would you say are some of the things that you want or try to instill in your daughter to shape her in the right direction?
Well, first of all, the relationship, the relationship with my daughter, I try to be as honest as possible and straight up as possible. And at the same time protect her because she's still a child from certain things. Now, my whole thing is that, you have to nip certain things in the bud, like what's acceptable from what's not acceptable. Now, growing up in the Caribbean, in Trinidad, before I came here, I've seen a lot of situations where those situations and actions were domestic violence.
But we didn't know
But-
they were called that
That's
because you
right.
think it's normal.
Yes, we were thinking that this is acceptable.
That's what I was saying. It's
You understand?
You label it as a cultural thing.
Yeah,
And you see it and
yeah.
you're like, really, no, that isn't
that
right.
that was wrong. You understand what I'm saying? But it's until I became older, I migrated here. I started seeing life from more on a world basis. You understand? And I started realizing that these atrocities, I have to call them, is not cool.
No.
This is not good. So now that I'm aware of that and I have a daughter now, my behavior, of course, first and foremost, I have to make sure that my actions, because, like they say, what the monkey see the monkey do.
Exactly.
I have to make sure that my actions are in accordance to what a man should be doing, and also show what I accept from what I don't accept as a man. You see what I'm saying? So she knows the standard. She knows, well, this is going too far. It shouldn't be like this, And
So I think that's very important.
Yeah.
That, like, I have nieces, and even with younger boys, there has to be that common ground.
Yes.
You don't. Women should not be. You feel you're a woman that you could talk to anyone a certain way because you never know how they're going to reciprocate on the back end.
yes. Yes.
And I remember, my brother and I would fight, and I would hit him. And when he started getting into like teenagers, one day he hit me and he busted my lip. And my dad's like, well, that just shows you, you hit a man, you may get hit back.
Right.
And be prepared for that.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's right, because not everyone's going to agree with, you don't hit women.
Yeah.
But you're not supposed to hit people.
Yes.
I think we just
understand.
extend that statement.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. Like, again, I'm a daddy, so she would come and punch me and stuff. She's like, Daddy, you getting belly fat. She's like, Daddy, you have 2 ounces of belly fat, and make jokes and stuff like that. And hit me, and I would take that, because